in an empty space, vacant of any Homo sapien. Hi there, this is the Cassette Master, and I bid you welcome to the Cassette Master Power Hour. Haha, today we have a very special tape recorder to show you. It is a vintage machine. Well, which one isn't, am I right? A vintage machine that came out in the year 1958. That's right, you heard me correct. 1958. And this machine is the Western German manufactured Teltape, reel-to-reel tape recorder, incorporating only 2 transistors and DC bias. I hope you enjoy it. Ah, so I see Cassette Master's Corner. Lots of nice things here, I must say. Yes, a nice well-lit lamp, and various different items and old pieces of equipment. Yes, so which one of these are going to get shown in the video, huh? We're all wondering, is it the phone? Is it the Fisher-Price cassette recorder? Is it the General Electric radio? Is it the stereo? Is it the green box? That's a curiosity. No, it's not even that. Oh, well, okay. What is it then? The teddy bears? Another phone? Not exactly. It's a suitcase. A suitcase, you say, huh? Yes. A simple suitcase. Yeah. Well, wonder what's inside. Wonder what's inside this suitcase. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out, huh? Gotta open the thing up, huh? Yeah, let's try that out. Oh, lock. It unlatched by itself. I can't believe it. Well, aren't we going to look inside? Well, all right. Brace yourself now. Okay. Let's take a closer look, shall we? Yeah, I want to see what's inside there. Nice up and close. I agree. That would be a good idea to see more details. Indeed. I concur. I think that would be a most... Oh! Harry? Harry, are you okay? No, please, no. Ah! Okay, so let's take a closer look in here. Here you can see inside the box is a reel-to-reel tape recorder and various different tape recorder accessories. Let's see what we got in here. We have a pouch area. It's nice cloth, nice and soft. We have important. Do not attempt to operate your Teltape transistor recorder without first reading all the facts in this booklet. Then we have the new Teltape recorder, multi-stage transistor tape recorder, portable battery operated. And inside we have various different tidbits of information inside about the Teltape tape recorder. Here's a handy order form. Here is a precision portable battery operated transistor tape recorder. Little mail-in deal where you can put your stamp on. And you can also include your address. And in this little pouch bag thingy is the key. Okay, so here is the inside of the box where the recorder's at. You can see various different accessories in here, including 2 speakers for stereo sound. Nope, just joking. They're wired together. This is a monaural machine. They probably used regular telephone earpieces, I would imagine, inside, although I can't quite get them apart. They have these little pouches where they can be put, And where they're wired, there's banana plugs. DC resistance 100 ohms. We also have the original microphone. The fun thing about this is the fact that it is a carbon microphone. None of this crystal rubbish as is common with rim drive tape recorders. This carbon microphone, I believe, is the same type that were used in typical German telephones during the time period, and even seems to be similar to the microphone that is in my FF-33 Nazi German telephone, field telephone for World War II, which ironically came out before World War II started. But I digress. Here is a phono jack on the one side, RCA phono jack. On the other side is two banana plugs. Very handy. Here is a 3-inch reel from with old recordings on it. Here is an empty 3-inch reel. Here is an empty 3-inch reel box because its 3-inch reel is loaded on the recorder right now. Here is a patch cable. We have a plug with bananas on one side and just bananas on the other side going to alligator clips. Inside this French-made plug is a 300 kilo ohm resistor in series. This cord is for hooking up a louder signal level source, such as a speaker output, I believe, directly into the microphone input of the tape recorder. Of course, since this uses a carbon microphone, the microphone input will always be giving out a small DC voltage to power the carbon mic. Now, last but not least, we can take the tape recorder out of the box. Pretty cool looking recorder with a nice maroon color. I really like maroon. It's one of my favorite colors. Now, just looking at the box itself, one thing I like about it is a nice soft felt material that it has coating all the surfaces inside. What I don't like, however, is this constant line here, which makes the recorder and this thing not fit perfectly flush. I'm not sure why it's there. I'm guessing it's to reinforce the box. Oh, and one more thing. A solitary vintage RCA battery. It's a pretty cool vintage RCA battery. Amazingly enough, not really any corrosion on it. Just a very slight deal of corrosion on the bottom there, but not much. Pretty good condition considering it's vintage. Operation of this recorder is very simple. You have just a few controls. On off, rewind, stop, play/record, play, record, and of course, as is very common with rim drive recorders, a speed control. You also have a sliding erase magnet. Unfortunately, the slider on here is very hard to move, and although I'm able to move it and make it erase, I have to use so much force that I'm afraid I'm going to break it, so I don't want to try to move it too often. So what I have therefore done is made sure the tape that I'm using is blank first. Rewind. Is like this. You have to try to make the speed control to one of the faster settings to get a good rewind out of it. Also notice the illuminated light bulb. This uses two power supplies inside, each 3-volt DC, provided from 2 C batteries each for a total of 4 C cells. I put AA's in it because, well, I have a bunch of AA's lying around and not a bunch of spare C's lying around. And thankfully the length of the AA and the length of the C is equivalent, so I was able to put C's in here. The light bulb is powered by the motor power supply as a basic way of monitoring whether you have power or not. The amplifier does not use the light bulb indicator, although both power supplies are turned on and off simultaneously by this button. The motor, however, will not actually turn on until you're in either rewind or play/record positions.
This isn't the fastest rewinder in the world, but don't expect it to be something wild considering it is a basic rim drive recorder. Unfortunately, there is no regulation of the motor speed. There is merely your rheostat, so speed stability on this machine is very bad. And there is tons of wow in the recordings, especially noticeable on any recordings of music or recordings with the constant background hum. What we'll play for you is a recording that I made on this recorder reading out of the brochure for this tape recorder. I hope you enjoy it.
We can read out of the new Teltape tape recorder manual, the multi-stage transistor tape recorder, portable battery operated. Dear customer, your interest in the new Teltape recorder is sincerely appreciated, and we wish to take this opportunity to thank you for your purchase. The Teltape recorder is the newest electronic and mechanical achievement in the recording field. It is made of high-impact, shock-resistant plastic for lightness, strength, and economy. The revolutionary compact design makes use of the highest quality electronic and mechanical components. Advanced circuitry design makes this miniature recording a modern miracle of this electronic age that will give you innumerable hours of enjoyment and entertainment at unheard of economy. The Teltape transistor recorder is manufactured exclusively for us in Western Germany, where tape recorders were invented. When you follow the simple directions in this brochure that has been carefully prepared for you, you will develop a tremendous appreciation for this fine piece of precision equipment. No doubt you will have many questions about tape recording. In this brochure, you will find the answers. We suggest that you read it carefully so that you will obtain maximum enjoyment from your Teltape recorder. Like any precision instrument, a little practice will help you develop the full range flexibility of which this versatile recorder is capable. If that's not an act of comedy, I don't know what is.
Alright, let's show some interactive fun with this recorder. More how to operate it in a normal sense. So in that last recording you heard of me reading the brochure, it was a direct playback from the recorder's output straight into the audio soundboard of the studio. And then I used some low-pass filtering to get rid of a little bit of a slight motor electrical noise in the recording. But now we're going to just do some regular operation of this machine. So we'll plug the carbon microphone into the microphone input on the left side of the recorder. And then we're going to plug the earphones into the earphone output on the right side of the recorder. Okay. Now, a special and important deal mentions holding the microphone 6 to 8 inches away from the mouth. You don't want to speak up this close, otherwise you'll distort the recordings like crazy. I got a text. The reason why is because this recorder has no volume control. There is no recording level control. There is no playback. I don't know why it's the little stuff like that that annoys me so much. But it is. So let's make a recording. Excuse me for a second. Actually, let me check these real quick to make sure that I just know that they're already checked. Okay. So, let's put it into electrical record position. We'll put it into transport forward position. And normally we would move our erase magnet, but that thing is so hard to move, I don't want to risk breaking it. And now we are making a recording. Oh yes, I need to speak 6 to 8 inches away from the microphone, otherwise we'll have bad sound. This is me speaking up directly to the microphone. You may notice an extreme amount of distortion in the recording when speaking up this close to the microphone. Testing 1, 2, 3. Now I'm speaking about 6 to 8 inches away from the microphone, and let's see if the sound sounds any better. Testing. This is a tape recorder. Now, the microphone was sitting something more like this when I made the recording of reading the brochure. And it, of course, sounded a bit better. But there are some more things you can do with this tape recorder, as we'll show soon. First, we'll play back. First, we want to go to play position. Then rewind. Methinks the batteries might be running low. You might can hear the sound as it rewinds coming out of the 2 earphones, amplified with 2 germanium transistors, of course. Pretty incredible. Oh, man. Let's play these back. Ah. Oh, damn it. Camera's too far away. Don't you just love stuff like that, man? Now it's not level. I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore, man. Sometimes you just gotta stop caring, man. Okay. Got one earphone right here.
And now we are making a recording. Oh yeah, I need to speak 6 to 8 inches away from the microphone, otherwise we'll have bad sound. This is me speaking up directly to the microphone. You may notice an extreme amount of distortion in the recording when speaking up this close to the microphone. Testing 1, 2, 3. Now I'm speaking about 6 to 8 inches away from the microphone, and let's see if the sound sounds any better. Testing. This is a tape recorder. Now the microphone was doing something more weird when I made the recording of reading the brochure, and it, of course, sounded a bit better. But there are some more things you can do with this tape recorder, as we'll show soon.
Okay, my arm was getting so tired holding that out my arm like this upward to hold that earphone out. Gosh, that was driving me nuts. Additionally, it's freaking hot in this room and I'm like pretty much sweating. It's just torture. Okay, now, wow. Oh, it's a sauna in here. Now what we're going to do is this is where we have a little bit more fun because we have this little orator over here. This orator here is what, made by ITT or Western Electric or something like, let's see. ITT. Okay, International Telephone and Telegraph. We have this little orator amplifier. We're going to power it by this 15 volt power supply. And we have the orator, boom, turned on. And now we're going to plug. Now this orator here, some of you guys will probably recognize it. I know Speaker Freak 95 will recognize it because he's the one that gave it to me. And these are commonly used for with monitoring the sound from a telephone line, kind of like a speakerphone, but only one direction. They can't hear you through it. You can only hear the conversations. But it's just a little amplifier. That's all it is. It uses an LM380 inside. The 8-pin version, if you've ever seen my video of that prototype speakerphone thing, it's the freaking mystery chip I couldn't figure out because I only knew of the LM380 that was in a 14-pin package. I didn't know there was an 8-pin version of it too. And a guy sent a comment on that video and helped out a lot. But anyway, and then I later got these orators and found it happened to contain an LM380 that was the 8-pin version. I was like, wow. Okay, anyway, I digress a lot. I always digress. But anyway, let's put the amplifier in here. Someone's washing their hands. Either Daniel or Murray's, one of the two. And let's go ahead and rewind. This moves.
Oh yeah, I need to speak 6 to 8 inches away from the light along the wire. Well, sound. This is me speaking up directly to the microphone. You may notice an extreme amount of distortion in the recording when speaking up this close to the microphone. Testing 1, 2, 3. Now, speaking about 6 to 8 inches away from the microphone. And let's see if the sound sounds any better. Testing. This is a tape recorder. Now, the microphone is doing something like this. When I made the recording of reading the brochure, and it, of course, sounded a bit better. But there are some more things you can do with this tape recorder, as we'll show soon.
Okay. Because this is made to use with a carbon mic, it's very conducive to recording the sound by hooking up an old rotary telephone directly to its microphone input. I have this Western Electric 500 CD or CD 500 rotary phone, and it's an all-passive phone. There was a slightly newer version that had some kind of electronic amplification or something that did not work with this. But this old, classical, all-passive component phone will work. Plug in the carbon microphone input and record position. It's already in. Transport's already in position, so just push the button, and as I talk I can hear just a hint of side tone. Let me turn the power supply off. You may have heard a loud hum at the beginning of the recording, and that's because of the power supply's transformer was acting as a transformer with the transformer in the telephone and inducing hum into the telephone. I think that's what was going on. Let me prove that by disconnecting the... Yes, that's exactly what was going on, which is incredible. Power supply is de-energized now. I'm talking on a telephone. This is an amazing experience. If I speak up at a distance, it's a lot quieter. Obviously, the output of this phone is a little bit on the lower side, so therefore it doesn't overdrive the Teltape recorder, and it actually sounds pretty good for what it is. Quite intelligible speech. Let's spin the rotary dial. I spun the rotary dial. Now I'll spin the rotary dial and I'll make a noise. Great fun. Now we'll play that back. I know, right? Why does it need so much force?
There's some more thing that you can do with this tape recorder, as we'll show soon. And there's a drop right here just to emphasize that. I'm just going to pass that off. You may have heard a loud hum at the beginning of the recording. And that's because of the power supply's transformer was acting as a transformer with the transformer in the telephone and inducing hum into the telephone. I think that's what was going on. But let's do that by disconnecting the, yes, that's exactly what was going on, which is incredible. Well, de-energized now, talking on the telephone. This is an amazing experience. If I speak up in the distance, a lot quiet. Obviously, the output of this phone is a little bit on the lower side, so therefore it doesn't overdrive the Teltape recorder. It actually sounds pretty good for what it is. Quite intelligible speech. Let's spin the rotary dial. Rotary dial. Now spin the rotary dial and make a noise. Pretty fun.
Maybe it was slightly overdriven, but quite something. I should also be able to play the sound into the telephone itself. Let's try that out. Phenomenal results. Good grief, that's good. Let's try it. This is only a 2-transistor amplifier, mind you. Plenty of volume.
Obviously, the output of this phone is a little bit on the lower side, so therefore it doesn't overdrive the Teltape recorder. It actually sounds pretty good for what it is. Quite intelligible speech. Let's spin the rotary dial. Rotary dial. Now spin the rotary dial and make a noise.
Wow. Of course, one could also take a standalone handset and wire the microphone into there and the speaker into there, and it will work. Though with the microphone hooked up directly, it tends to be a little bit more overdriven on the recording, so it is more conducive to speaking at a distance. Let's give that a quick try. Speaker connections go to the white wires. Microphone connections go to the red and black wires. Polarity does not matter. This happens to be a push-to-talk handset, so I'll have to hold the thing down, but anyway. Okay, I'm holding it down, talking to the handset, probably overdriving the machine like mad. Now I'm speaking at about 6 to 8 inches away from this Western Electric carbon microphone on a G5 handset. Testing 1, 2, 3. This is a very special tape recorder. Now I'm speaking at arm's length distance. Testing 1, 2, 3. Western electric carbon microphone. Testing. Now I'm speaking up close again as if I'm on the telephone talking to someone. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. I can hear lots more distortion.
Speaking at about 6 to 8 inches away from this Western electric carbon microphone on a G5 handset. Testing 1, 2, 3. This is a very special tape recorder. Western electric carbon microphone. Testing. I'm speaking up closer. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay.
As you can see, that particular microphone's output is so strong that when you speak up close to it, it overdrives it complete, like so bad that I think the amplifier itself probably goes into saturation or something, and it can barely handle it, and it distorts like absolute mad. And when I spoke 6 to 8 inches away from the microphone, it sounded pretty decent. When I spoke at arm's length distance, it was a bit quieter, but still decent. Thankfully, though, this particular rotary telephone up here has enough, I guess, a difference in an impedance or limitation of how much signal that you get, that I can speak directly up to its microphone and it comes out a little bit more intelligible on the Teltape. Anyway, it's a very interesting tape recorder. I hope you enjoyed this video. Started strong, ended weak as usual. Hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so I don't know, this the same every time, I swear. I'm hungry, man. I need to make some supper, man, or lunch, dinner, hybrid. Like I'm so hungry right now. Tempting to just get Chinese, but I finally got some stuff to make my own food at the grocery store, and I don't want to let that go to waste. So otherwise I'd be getting Chinese, because bro, you can't go wrong with Chinese food, bro. Oh my gosh. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. Bye. One thing of note here is you can see the recorder is full track mono. There you can see the swinging erase head. Boom! All right. Mosquitoes.
Hi, I'm back with my professional voice now. None of this internal microphone of the camera mumbo jumbo. And anyway, I apologize that I didn't show more with my professional voice. I mean, good riddance. Am I right? Well, I want to show one more feature this recorder has. It doesn't really do much aside from its minor speed control. You see this small trimmer on the back bottom here? That's a speed fine-tune adjustment. This is on a rim drive tape recorder, man. That's a rheostat in series with another rheostat, aka low resistance resistors, low resistance high wattage pots for having higher current loads such as motors, that kind of thing. Really, it's kind of silly to have that speed fine-tune adjustment, but it's there. Anyway, I have the old tape loaded on here. Now, these recordings were probably made when this recorder was new, and Anyway, I'm hoping that you'll enjoy these recordings. Machine is turned on. You probably heard a pop there when I turned it on. And now, without further ado, let's start the recorder.
This is Michael Whitman, testing 1, 2, 3. This is Michael Whitman, testing. 1, 2, 3. Here's how to make a tape recording. Follow these simple steps to get results. And then just spin this part and see if it works or not. Oh no. Michael Whitman, testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1. Ranking testing 1, 2, 3, 4. I got something in my phone. Good. This one.
Well, looks like that's the last of these recordings on this tape. Not many recordings were made on this little short tape, probably because they weren't impressed with the horrible recording quality of this machine. Its audio is barely intelligible speech. What do you expect, though? 2 transistors, rim drive, and a carbon mic. But, pretty cool recorder, I must say. When I played back those recordings through the soundboard, which is a PRNE AMX18 console, I had a little bit of equalization going to turn down the highs a little bit to get rid of some higher frequency, just a tiny bit of buzz from the motor, electrical buzz. But the frequency response of the recorder is so incredibly limited that it didn't make a difference in the actual sound of the recordings themselves, because already this recorder, as you could hear, is a very muffled machine. I mean, the manual or the paperwork only mentions the frequency response going to a maximum of 4 kilohertz. Really, that's not very much at all. So now we're going to go ahead and look through some of the paperwork here. We don't want to leave you guys hanging when it comes to that, because you guys are going to cry if I don't show you the paperwork in more detail. So we'll open up the case here, and I'll read you this right here. It's rather important, so you need to pay attention. So let's read this. This is an important document that comes with the Teltape reel-to-reel tape recorder. Very important. Important. Do not attempt to operate your Teltape transistor recorder without first reading all the facts in this booklet. This warning is not meant to alarm you, nor does it imply that the operation of the Teltape transistor recorder is difficult. It is given merely to delay your eagerness to try out your machine, to prevent errors, and to give you a full understanding of how the machine works and how to get the most out of it. You must remember that transistor recorders are still new, and therefore few people know how they work. More than anything else, we want you to get good results, and we want you to know that excellent results are possible once you have become familiar with your Teltape recorder. Before operating your recorder, be sure you read carefully the operating instructions beginning on page 9. Here you will see the complete sequence of operations for recording, playback, and rewind. Important: holding the microphone. This is a must. Hold or place the microphone directly in front of the speaker's lips, about 8 to 10 inches away. Oops, I misremembered and thought it was 628. Okay. While it may not seem obvious to you at first, the quality of the recording suffers if this simple rule is not observed. If you ever watched sound studios or reporters broadcasting, you would see that this rule applies even to the professionals. Remember, when holding the microphone, that there is a natural tendency to drop or lower the microphone until it is lower and lower and lower and lower. This is an unconscious reaction. Even if you practice using your microphone, you'll often find yourself doing the very same thing. Try to remember, and your recordings will improve. If you drop the mic, then talk down directly into it. Practice. If you have never owned or operated a tape recorder before, we strongly urge you to practice a few times. Go through each step of recording and playback consciously. Check yourself. Listen to the results. Try again until your conscious movements become reflex actions. If you follow these simple but important steps before recording, you will derive much more pleasure and enjoyment from this wonderful new instrument. Now, viewers, we'll play a short snippet of audio I recorded using this machine using a Shure SM57 microphone to try to get a little bit of the slightly better sound quality, or considerably better sound quality that comes when using a non-carbon microphone. Now that we're back, we'll show you a little bit of this little booklet. Let's zoom out, shall we? The new Teltape recorder, multi-stage transistor tape recorder. That makes me laugh every time. Multi-stage. There is only 2 stages of amplification in this thing. That's less than most give. Even your basic typical 4-transistor Japanese rim drive recorders have 3 stages. So there you go. Here is a note that I read in the beginning of the video, the Dear Customer note from the brochure. Then this booklet includes such things as office use, laboratory use, travel use, home use, parties, and then some special instructions. When you wish to give or receive special instructions, you can now make them as crystal clear and as specific as though you were actually there. Save time. Costly mistakes saves time, costly mistakes, and money. That makes me laugh because obviously when you're using its original carbon microphone, you're going to get anything but crystal clear. The treble response barely even passes the sounds of the letter S. So a lot of stuff is, and then when you have the additional distortion of the carbon microphone, especially if you are speaking too close to it, and I'm sorry, but it's sometimes even hard to understand. Then you got investigators, they can use it to investigate. You got reporters. Thank you very much, news reporters. Yeah. Make an instantaneous record of whatever you see or hear for immediate or later transmittal. This way, you preserve your original vivid impressions without error or bias. Teltape works wherever you are. 100% portable. Weighs just 2 pounds. No writing. You might, you could record a reporter, and then if you record reporting, and if you can make out what they're saying, you could, write it down and then reread it as somebody else into a higher quality tape recorder. But this thing is not good enough for broadcast use. This thing is horrible quality. Legal work. Oh, man, yeah. Telephone recording. Now, telephone recording, the carbon's graininess gives way to a particular intelligibility to it. That is a high-quality carbon microphone, such as a Western Electric. Sounds a lot better than the original microphone that came with the recorder. Medical reports, research, engineering, field data. Servicemen. Talk to relatives, friends across the seas. Philnor Products, Foreign Service. Okay, this is it's from Philnor Products, which was the distributors of this recorder in the United States. Mail your recorded tapes. I'm not going to go through all these pages. It's going to take forever. And I'm definitely not going to read all the paragraphs out loud. That will really take forever. You know what I mean? It talks about the erase head. Talks about the full track mono record playback head. It talks about the low voltage drive and rewind motor. I will read this because I know this thing is horribly inconsistent when it comes to the speed. I'm curious what they say about the motor. It's specially designed to operate on low voltage. The Teltape drive. Now, it is a good motor, don't get me wrong. It's just that it's not running with any kind of governor on it or motor speed regulation circuitry aside from a freaking rheostat. So obviously the motor is not going to perform as well as I'm sure it's able to if it had the proper support circuitry. I'm not knocking on the actual motor itself. I'm just knocking on the fact that the way it's used is not going to provide good results at all. Especially designed to operate on low voltage, the Teltape drive motor operates the tape reel supports without cams, pulleys, gears, idlers, etc. that would complicate its operation, add weight, and troublesome mechanical failures. Believe me, I was having plenty of mechanical failures when I was first trying to get this thing to work correctly. The Teltape, then again, it is 63 years old. The Teltape drive motor is smooth running and trouble-free, completely sealed and lubricated. Special feature. Whenever the machine is stopped, when a bug is a feature. Whenever the machine is stopped, the reel that is unwinding or releasing tape makes a slight reverse motion. This action is deliberate. It was built in by the designers to take up any tape slack between the reels, a feature not yet available on conventional tape machines. This action prevents your tape from spilling or slipping off the reel, thereby preventing twisting, entanglement, or damaged tape. Instant braking. Turning the motor switch instantaneously stops or reverses the reel action. Fast rewind. A slight turn on the speed regulator spins the reels at top speed for fast rewind in either direction. Automatic slack take up. Well, that's funny because, yeah. A feature, let me make sure I'm actually on here because I zoomed in. Automatic slack take up. A feature found on no other tape recorder, regardless of cost. This feature provides for instant braking whenever reels are stopped. Whether you're recording, listening, or just rewinding, the tape will not spill off the reels. The automatic slack take-up feature keeps tape firmly in contact with the operating heads for best response. That automatic slack take-up is the thing they talked about earlier in the paragraph about the motor. That's just because the motor has a shaft on each end, and so obviously the reels will want to spin in opposite directions because of that. So when the machine is put into neutral position, i.e. stop position, the motor shaft itself pushes up against the reel tables to act as a brake, which is a horrible design because that means you're going to get flat spots on the rubber over the years. But because of that, they're going to try to move in opposite directions, and then those are going to keep the tape constantly up against the head and provide a good braking. It works well as a brake. It really does. It's just that using the motor shaft up against the drive surface is a bad design because it's going to develop flat spots as it sits over the course of many years unused. Anyway, it's funny because it's just one of the that quote feature is just one of the things that is something that happens just as a result of the very simple, cheap, basic rim drive design. It's just kind of a side effect of that design, but they call it like it's a very special, innovative feature, like it's a very, very super duper amazing recorder, when really it's a very, very low quality rim drive machine. But then again, at the time this came out, this was 1958. Machines like this, there weren't many portable reel to reels out there. There was, I think, the first Phonotrix, maybe a couple Phonotrix models. There the Steelman transit tape. We think it's 1959, but I did at one point. I remember seeing online an old magazine article or something, or newspaper, or something, one of those old scanned articles, I think from late 1958, that mentioned the Steelman transit tape, which surprised me. So there were some other higher quality portable reel-to-reels available at the time, but there weren't many. I mean, it's fun to look through this metal, through this manual, and it's a fun recorder. I really enjoy it. It's really cool. I'm really glad I got it. But what makes me laugh so hard is when the manuals, the paperwork, and all that try to make it out to be something more than it really is. Because really it's very limited in what it can do. And the quality is extremely limited. The speed stability is, it has lots of wow, because there's no regulation of the motor speed. So as the load varies slightly as it turns, it doesn't compensate for the variation of load, and then the speed will decrease and increase and decrease and increase as it turns. And I don't think there's any pre-emphasis of the treble frequencies during recording at all, which is I'm pretty sure that's the case as to why the frequency response is so muffled. But, at the same time, I will give credit where credit's due. When you use a good quality microphone or a good quality external source and it's not overdriving the recorder, the recording quality is low distortion, albeit with very poor frequency response. It is actually a decently low distortion. It doesn't have DC bias S issues or stuff like that. It actually doesn't sound half bad when you have a good microphone on it. But at the same time, it is very limited. And, of course, rim drive. And I think this was the foray into the battery-operated rim drive recorders. I think this was what started the trend, if I'm not mistaken. There were other machines that used rim drive technology that were office dictation machines that were sit on a desk and were much more robustly made and had a high torque drive system, but for some reason used rim drive. But they were not battery operated either. A lot of those were AC line. There might have been a portable version, but I don't know what year it came out, if it was around in 58 or not. So I'm one of those guys that just keeps chin wagging, so I apologize for all that mumbo jumbo if any of you guys are still watching. Anyway, so hope you enjoyed this video. There's going to be a lot of work editing this thing because the higher quality audio portions I'm recording on Audacity through the soundboard, and then we'll stick in the video later synchronized with the original camera audio. Then other sections of this video are just captured on camera audio where I didn't feel like trying to hold a microphone in one hand and operate the recorder with the other. I don't know how much I'll put in here. I do have some footage of the inside of this recorder. Just a little bit. I didn't have to do too much to fix it. Mainly I had to put a piece of thin paper towel-ish, sort of higher quality than normal paper towel, but something like that, a cloth material, to slightly elevate one of the reels, the supply reel table, because it was kind of rubbing against the plastic surface because it was crooked and not straight up and down, because of the reel table itself is mounted on a shaft, and that shaft is mounted on the plastic body, and the plastic was warped, so the reel was kind of crooked like that, and so the rubber on the reel table was rubbing against the plastic of the case just a tad bit, which was causing there to be more friction and causing it not to drive reliably at all. But originally, but amazingly enough, the original electrolytic capacitors, all the capacitors are good. All the amplifiers components are good. I did touch up the bias adjustment just a little bit, This is the only recorder I've ever seen in my entire life that is DC bias that has a trimmer already on it to adjust the DC bias current. All other DC bias machines I've seen have just used a fixed resistor. So that's kudos to the designers on this one.
I don't think these tests are quite complete until I've used a Shure SM57 professional quality microphone with this recorder. Speaking up close to this Shure SM57, I'm now speaking at arm's length distance, about a foot away from the Shure SM57 dynamic microphone. Testing. Gosh, the speed is so bad. Hear it struggle.
Guarantee void if seal removed. Here's the guarantee all the way from Dusseldorf, Germany. This is my first time ever taking the bottom off this recorder because this little stringed guarantee was never removed. I'm able to kind of rotate this, but in order to take this off completely, I have to remove the guarantee. I can't see a bloody thing. You can see that the guarantee has a string that is strung around this lug here. And in order to take this machine apart, the string has to be cut. I could try taking the lug off, but I'm afraid that the screw on the other side holds part of the mechanical mechanism here, and I would rather not do that. The motor is not receiving adequate power to run, and I'm having to troubleshoot why. Here you can see the circuitry of the Teltape tape recorder, incorporating only 2 germanium transistors. Impressively, there are 2 trimmers present on the circuit board. Most cheaper rim drive recorders, you don't see things like trimmers on the amplifier. But this German piece of engineering, they made sure to even have adjustments on a 2-transistor rim drive tape recorder's amplifier circuit. Not only that, but the motor uses a governor regulator, and not only does it have your typical speed control found on many rim drive reel-to-reel tape recorders, as you can see the back of the rheostat here, but there's a second rheostat in series with it to do a fine-tuning adjustment. Yes, they really thought this one out, even though it's rim drive DC bias and 2-transistor. There we go. I managed to get this seal, this guarantee seal off without ruining it. Thank goodness. That was a close one. Now, if we undo this knot, we can take it out without messing up the guarantee seal. For my own reference, I'm storing this seal in this organizer drawer right here. Yay, I'm able to take it off now. So here's the back. Even has original rubber feet. Just kind of a, not quite like regular cardboard, but it's like a cardboard-like material. Some kind of a cardboard-ish material. There's another one! Die! Okay, so now, yes, I know I have double A's in here, not C's. So, there's the motor. Now, I can see the motor connections. Here's one motor connection with a wire. Here's another motor connection soldered to the case of the motor with no wire, which tells me that it's powered through the case, which means power must go through this metal to that metal, and power must get to this metal from perhaps that metal or some metal somewhere. And I think it's the connection between the metal pieces that isn't making good enough contact.
because when I measured voltage at the motor, I was only getting like 20 some odd millivolts when I'm expecting probably 6 volts. Okay, so this actually uses 3 volts and 3 volts. One set of 3 volts for the amplifier, I believe, and 3 volts for the motor. So I got the motor to work. First, I put a power supply right on the motor terminals, and for safety reasons, I put it down to a safe 1.5 volts, and the motor worked just fine. And then I found, okay, when I put it into play position, I had between this motor connection here that has a wire and this piece here, I had 3 volts. But from this piece to the motor housing, which connects to the actual other terminal, I had nothing. When I touched these two together while it was on, it bridged the contact, and sure enough, the motor came to life. When I let it go, the motor continued to run, so whatever bad connection there was made good again just by the passage of electricity through it. It was enough to kind of get that connection good, and now the motor has come to life. So now we will be doing tests with a tape reel and see if there's anything coming from the amplifier. So far the amplifier seems dead because I didn't hear anything coming out of the speakers when I put my signal injector on there. But we'll continue poking around and see what we get. Okay, we're getting it to run, and the amplifier is working, very quiet, but there's only 2 transistors, but we're having some issues getting this to run well, having to push the motor against there a little bit more sometimes. There's a lot of drag, a lot of resistance on this side here, so we're going to have to do some lubricating and stuff like that. But it's definitely coming to life though. The hubs, or the reel spindles, are very easy to take off. You just got one C-clamp and the reel pulls straight off. There's the C-clamp. Here's what you have underneath. You got some foam for some friction. There's the motor shaft. And the rubber is what looks to be a recessed O-ring, which is a good design because that means I could probably put a new O-ring on there if I needed to. However, especially considering a machine that's about 63 years old, I'm amazed by how good condition the rubber still is. I also checked both electrolytic capacitors in this and a non-electrolytic 0.1 microfarad capacitor. They were all still good. Yes, I'm blown away by that. Oh, and good news. The microphone it uses is carbon. I put some light oil on the motor, which you can't see due to bad lighting. Let me fix that real quick. I put some light oil on the motor here. And then I put some graphite lubricant onto the felt and oiled the shaft. I also cleaned the motor shaft. The first shaft I mentioned, that's just that stationary rod. Then I cleaned the motor shaft with alcohol, used Windex to clean the rubber. And now whenever I turn on rewind, works pretty nicely. We'll put the C-clamp back on now. On the take-up side, the felt, unfortunately, and a little bit, it had managed to tear off just under all the friction. So I'm going to glue this back with hot glue, and of course also put graphite lubricant on it too to make it more slippery. I've also cleaned the motor shaft, lubricated the stationary rod, and cleaned the rubber O-ring. Okay. I was getting a lot of drag on this blummin' thing, and I was wondering how come there's that much friction on this felt even after I lubricated it. Then I even put oil around this metal ring there, and oil didn't really even transfer onto the roller. Then, or not roller, felt. Well, then whenever I put this back on, I look at this, you can see it's lopsided slightly, and the rubber surface itself is able to make contact with the plastic case. A slight warp in the plastic case, thanks to the fantastic build quality of this machine, has lent the rubber the ability to rub against the plastic case and therefore have extra friction and less of a tendency for this rim drive thing to work well
and also causing rewind really to struggle. So what I'm going to have to do is remove the glue where I have glued this felt piece down, and then I'm going to have to elevate this felt piece by some kind of a spacer to push that real table up just a little bit. I really hate ants, man.
I really hate ants.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
This is the Teltape tape recorder.
This is the Teltape tape recorder.
Alright. That sounds horrible, but there's nothing I can do about it. That's the best it'll be.
This has been a Cassette Master